wanted to be a surgeon and he wanted to be a cardiac surgeon. So he started off with his training, and when he was still a surgical trainee, he did some amazing work with tuberculous meningitis. And when he was training in pediatrics, he found that the results of surgery after congenital duodenal atresia were really poor. Most of these children died. So he then went on, and he's only a training at that point in time, he figured out that the operation was very conservative and did not take into account the fetal blood supply. So if more extensive resection was taken, the results would be better. And as a trainee, he actually innovated that surgical procedure, which then became the definite therapy for duodenal atresia by taking away more part of the intestine. He'd seen his brother die of a cardiac disease at age 5, and he wanted to be a cardiac surgeon, and he wanted to find cure for cardiac diseases. So he wanted to do coronary artery bypass grafting, he wanted to do surgery for valves, and he wanted to do a heart transplant. So he started preparing for a heart transplant by working on kidney transplantation, and in December 1967 an organ became available in South Africa, and there was a patient who had a few weeks to die, and it was a big decision that he had to make. Unlike the United States and unlike colleagues in the United Kingdom, he had not done enough animal work. But here was an opportunity. There was a patient who was going to die and an organ had become available. So should he wait, do more work on animals, or go ahead and do a heart transplant? Well, Christian Barnard decided to do a heart transplant. His 30-member team took 9 hours and did the first heart transplant in the world. And he said, on Saturday I was a surgeon in South Africa, very little known. On Monday I was well renowned. That's what happens with success, right? But sadly, 18 days later, that patient died. So Christian Barnard had become world famous. First heart transplant, done it. The patient died in 18 days. Exactly 4 weeks after his first transplant, another organ became available, and he had another patient. What would you have done? You're world famous, right? You've done the first successful heart transplant, but obviously the patient died in 18 days, so there's a lot to learn. Should you do more work? Should you do more animal work, more research, and then go ahead? Or do you want to risk it all and go ahead and do a transplant? Now, if it works, wow, your name is written in the history books, but if you fail, everybody's going to say that you are a dangerous surgeon, right? What would you do? Difficult decision, right? But what did Barnard do? He took a leap of faith and did a transplant. And that patient survived for 19 months. And that is how heart transplantation was established in the world. Today, more than 4,000 heart transplants are performed every year in the world. You cannot swim from new horizons until you have courage to lose sight of the shore. So, do we have the courage? You know, all of us are so lucky. We are so fortunate, right? We have a home, we have food, we have a family, we have a job. Many of those who just graduated, came to a very good university. There's just so much to be grateful for. But do we express gratitude every day? We do that occasionally. We don't realize the value of something till we lose it. We don't realize the value of good health till we become unhealthy. We do not realize the value of a good friend till we have a fight. Right? But there are some people who understand the power of gratitude, and one such person was Arthur Ashe. He was the first Afro-American tennis player to win the US Open. He then went on to win the Wimbledon, beating Jimmy Connors, which was described as perhaps the best tennis match ever in the history of Wimbledon. He was a very popular tennis player. He established the ATP, and then at the age of 36 he had a heart attack, and he had a bypass surgery a year later. 4 years later he had a quadruple bypass surgery, and in 1992 he announced to the world that he was dying of AIDS. HIV was not tested at that time, and he got HIV from the blood transfusion during his surgery. So his fans were devastated from across the world, and they wrote to him. And one fan wrote, "Why does God have to select you for such a bad disease?" And this is what Arthur replied. The world over 50 million children start playing tennis, 5 million learn to play tennis, 500,000 learn professional tennis. 50,000 come to the circuit, 5,000 reach the Grand Slam, 50 reach the Wimbledon, 4 to the semi-finals and 2 to the finals. When I was holding a cup, I never asked God, why? And today, in pain, I should not be asking God, why me? What a powerful example of gratitude. We should remember what Lord Buddha had said. Let us rise up and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So let us all be thankful. So the question is, can we recognize the power of gratitude? Because if we can, life can be incredibly beautiful every day. You know, we sometimes give a lot of credit to doctors and believe doctors save lives. Of course they save lives. But then everyone in healthcare makes a huge contribution. A housekeeping worker can save a life by tying a seat belt properly and preventing a fall. A lab technician, by informing the doctor that the potassium is 7 at 3 a.m., saves a life. A dietitian, by counseling a family that if you're on warfarin, you can't have these food products, saves a life. And a social worker, by counseling families, saves multiple lives, especially if she's able to convert a family to agree to donate their deceased relatives' organs. A friend sent this to me on WhatsApp, and this was from somewhere in the Middle East. It was getting very late at night, and this little girl wanted to sleep in her mother's lap. So she took off her shoes, took a piece of chalk, and went to sleep in her lap. In many ways, the relationship that we caregivers have with our patients is like that of a mother with a child. And a family leaves in our charge who is most dear to them. Their spouse, their parent, their sibling, their child, hoping that we will look after them just like a mother looks after her child. Think for a moment, we are all so fortunate that we are in healthcare. We are the ones chosen by God to do His own work.